big thing.
Hi, good evening. I'm Lucky Margadonna, hosting Meet Your Candidates. Tonight I have Sandy Wilson, former selectman and current candidate for a 3-year term. How are you tonight, Sandy?
Good. How are you, Lucky?
Good. So, I've known you forever. I've known your whole family, basically. I was on the fire department with your brother, your father. I've known your aunt, who was a town clerk. But you come from a whole line of civic-orientated people.
It's civic and service-oriented. Even on my mother's side, almost all the brothers were in the armed services. She and 3 of her 4 sisters were all nurses. So they come from service-oriented family on both sides. And, of course, I married into one as well.
Yeah, and that's a full family of civic-orientated people between EMS and fire department. I also know that you've helped form a lot of young ladies into what they are today because you've done fantastic work with the Girl Scouts over the years.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I've been a registered Girl Scout for, I'll just say more than 50 years,
Yes.
and active every year. When I first became selectman 7 years ago, I gave up being fully active and have been just in a consulting role. But before that, I was the troop leader. I lost count of how many girls from grade 7 through 12. So I got them at the, the age where they're trying to make up their minds what they want to do for careers and go where they want to go to school and what they need to do to become women.
And people don't realize that between Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, not saying that parents drop the ball, but there's a lot more to be learned that parents don't have a chance to offer, where the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts do.
Well, one of the big things is the ability to do projects and community service outside of school, projects in areas that they're really interested in, as well as I made sure my girls knew how to plan. If they're going to tackle something, they knew how to put together a plan. How to get there, if we were going on a trip. If they didn't do the planning at that age, we didn't go on the trips. And that included finding out all the resources they needed, what they had to do to get there, how much it would cost, what kind of fundraising, if any, they would have to do to support themselves while they were on that trip. And they did all of the planning.
So that's where my daughter learned it. Didn't learn it off me. So let's get into it, Sandy. I know you have been a selectman for, I believe it was 2 terms.
2 terms.
And then you stepped down.
Last June.
Last June. I knew there was some issues going on that you had to take care of at the time.
Well, one of it is my family felt that I had needed to step back, take a break, and as well I was changing jobs at work, and I knew that would be more than full-time. And to do the job of selectman right, in my opinion, is you have to have the time to be able to go to the committees that you're a liaison to. You have to have the time to be able to do the research to make the right decisions. And with the new role at my job, I didn't think I would have that ability. I was able to step into the job, and now a year later, I've got it well managed. I have a good work-life balance and have the free time back again to dedicate to being a selectman.
You bring up an interesting point. I mean, well, obviously, you know, and I've been playing around with this stuff off and on for years. And I've had people say, why don't you run for selectman? Because I don't have the time. Well, you go to meetings 2-3 nights a week. Well, going to a meeting 2-3 nights a week isn't the time that's needed as a selectman. I mean, you have your daytime meetings. You have, when you say liaison, it's not a simple Parks and Rec liaison or this liaison in town. You might be at the airport, you might be in Boston for some. These meetings are time consuming, and you have to be able to dedicate yourself to them.
Because you get invited to things like I was liaison to CMRPC, and if no one from town showed up for those quarterly meetings, we would not get the credits to be able to have the free services, which would mean the measly $2,900 we pay as dues to CMRPC would be wasted because we wouldn't get any free hours. by attending, we were able to get between $15,000 and $30,000 worth of services out of CMRPC in the years that I was liaison. The planning board took advantage of them, the ZBA, the code, the stormwater management, as well as the selectman's office and the town clerk's office. They were all able to take advantage of offerings from CMRPC because we had the free hours.
And I know like Doug's been involved with the Worcester Bus Company and the airport over the years. We need people representing our town, and if people get on that don't have the time to put into these things, to me, it's just a wasted slot.
Yeah, if they can't do those and there is none of the other four that can't do it either, then we are missing a big opportunity. There are a lot of different places that we need to touch on, and some of them are monthly, some of them are quarterly. But it is important that Leicester have a seat at the table with those discussions with those other organizations.
So I know you have a flyer out here, and there's certain things you'd like to touch on just to let people know. But why do you want to get back into it? I know you've been civic orientated for years, but why do you want to put yourself through this again?
Well, I actually enjoyed being selectman as much as not everybody in my family did. But I enjoyed it because I felt like I was accomplishing things. Some of the things that I did accomplish, I think you'll remember when I first got elected, we didn't have a town website.
Right.
It was run by a gentleman in town, and he did a great job with what he was doing, but it wasn't the official town website. And he was the only one who could maintain it. One of the first MMA meetings I went to, there were multiple companies there that had municipal website software. I researched them all, I brought it back, presented it to the board, and they agreed with me that it was time to move to a real official website that could handle all of the open meeting laws and things like that. And so I worked with them, and I worked with all the department heads to design out the pages. I helped load them, I helped train all of the different department heads that have edit access, worked with them so that we could have a separate page, homepage for the library and a separate homepage for the police department without any extra cost. And it took off and we populated it, but now we're at a point where there's so much that has to be updated constantly on the site that I really want to push to have an IT person on the municipal side. Yes, we have an IT contract with Clearcom, but that's just maintenance of the servers and the desktops that we have. It's not an IT person that can maintain the website. One of the things that I had discussed with the board and with some of the school committee the last time I was on was to share an IT person with the schools. It started to get some groundwork, but then it fell apart. So I would like to tackle that again, sharing services between the school and the municipal side for the websites.
That was another point you're bringing up, sharing services. I see we had started doing this with the health department. We started doing it with our
The dispatch.
dispatch planners. I'm not happy with the dispatch, but that's my opinion. But with our town planner, stuff like that. Is there more value to doing it when you start sharing services or?
Well, with the Board of Health, it's been a huge advantage because we now can take part in any of the programs that collaborative of health services offers. Before, we had 1.5 persons in the health department. We have the elected board, but they're like the selectmen. They're just a board to direct the department head. Now we have access, I think they're up to 14 people in that collaborative, and they have different specialties, so we are able to take advantage of programs and not have to fund them. They come out of our yearly payment to them, so we get advantage of all of the program, like the smoking cessation and the preventing teens from starting smoking, the health services, all of that, we don't have to have in-house expertise because it's all there. With the dispatch, I know people have, you're either okay or not. When the police chief brought that forward as a way to be able to add 2 full-time police officers to his department and help get his staff up, I thought that was great. As you know, I've traveled around the country quite a bit.
Yeah.
I have managed people through my job at IBM that have lived in 35 different states. And as I talk to them, I get to know them on a personal level, and we discuss certain things. And through the traveling, New England's one of the only places in the country that does not have regional dispatch. California, the whole state of California, has 5 dispatch centers.
Mm-hmm.
So it works. And if you have the right policies and the right people in place, it really works. It's transparent to whoever's calling 911. And the ability to save $200,000 to $250,000 in our budget, that's what the dispatch used to cost when we had the 4 full-time dispatchers and the part-timers. To be able to hire 2 full-time police officers and cover their salaries plus all of the added things like retirement and benefits and things like that, the added costs, as well as be able to hire someone in and I understand they're still working on getting the right people to be able to have the lobby hours all open more than manned by a couple of police officers at a certain hours. The plan was always to have someone come in and be there more hours than that. And it would have been covered by that cost, but it allowed us to hire 2 more police officers.
Which was absolutely needed today's day and age. We need to have that coverage. Even, I believe, we're just getting up the coverage that's recommended by federal government.
From the studies that were done
Yes.
in the early 2000s, yeah.
Yes. And we've been lacking in that for a long time. However, I personally don't like it, but
But people,
yeah.
the size of this room is bigger than what the dispatch center was.
was.
So the police station is not closed. It's still fully utilized. That community room is active almost every night of the week and multiple times on weekends with different organizations using it. We still have the lockup. That still works. If it turns out that they can't bail someone out and they have to hold them overnight, we have an agreement with Spencer, and it's very inexpensive to send them to Spencer for the night.
So all our needs are being covered.
The needs are definitely being covered. I never would have supported it if the needs weren't being covered.
And that's one thing I've always noticed with you, Sandy, growing up or in times on different boards. You think with your head and you support or disagree with things that aren't right for the town or what you feel ain't right for the town.
Thank you. I try to do that. I've made decisions that were right for the town that I personally would not do for myself, but it was right for the town. So I do my homework and try to see all sides. There's usually 3 sides to every situation, and I try to see that and try and make the best choice, in my opinion, for what's best for the whole town.
Now, you've worked with some of these people on the boards before, and you, like I said, you've been on 2 other terms. Did you ever feel stifled by the boards holding you back? Do you think you could have done more?
Probably, yeah. Especially in the beginning, because it is intimidating when you first get on, and they say it takes a whole year to get up to speed. I think I got up to speed sooner, but I was still outvoted a couple of times on some things that I wanted to bring forward, so they never even made it to like agendas. So,
Okay.
but some of those items started coming up at the end of my last term, so hopefully some of the items will be able to be brought up again and we'll be able to push forward.
'Cause I was gonna say, actually both terms I've noticed that you were on, and this goes for the whole board in general, it always seemed like it was a well-working board.
when I was on, everybody got along, everybody respected each other, and we were able to make good decisions that were best for the town and work together.
And I foresee that happening after this election. I'm hoping it's gonna be a well-oiled board.
Me too.
So, you do have some stuff I know you wanna bring out here, Sandy, so, go, feel free.
Well, one of the reasons that I'm running is there are several major challenges happening over the next year to 3 years. And one of those is obvious and already announced, Kevin Mizikar leaving as the town administrator. So finding the right replacement for the town is going to be key to our success going forward. We also have an aging workforce in town. We have some young people on the municipal side in the town hall, but we also have an aging workforce. The police chief will be retiring most likely within 3 years. We will need to find a replacement for him. That's the Board of Selectmen's job, is to appoint the police chief. We appoint all the police officers. There's several sergeants that are going to be retiring. And so finding new police officers and promoting from within, if we have the right caliber, if the guys are ready for it, or finding new sergeants from outside. It's all something that needs to be looked at. The highway superintendent will be retiring within 3 years, maybe less than a year. So there's all of that. I definitely appreciate the fact that the board last year allowed me to stay as chairman of the Fire and EMS Building Committee, so that we can see that through, and that should be completed in September, and the fire department moving and EMS moving in. Those are just some of the things that need to be done in a very short period of time. Along the terms of economic development, I think my ability to know how the town website works should be exploited. I'll let myself be exploited in that point to be able to get more information out there so we can draw more businesses. Right now, if a business from outside of town comes, I know it's hard to figure out what steps they have to do first. I had been waiting on the Economic Development Committee. I have not been ever appointed to it, to provide information that they feel people need to know. And I've volunteered before, and I'll volunteer again to help build those pages so that they're there and the information's out there for businesses to be able to know the steps, the processes, as well as people moving to town. There's some structure to the webpage that got changed when it got upgraded last year, and it's not easy for new people to town to find their way around. So the software allows us to change it pretty easily, so I would be volunteering to help work to make that more user-friendly, more transparent to how to navigate.
You know, I always hear, you just happen to bring up businesses and the economics part of it. We just don't sit on our backside waiting for somebody to drop their hat and say, oh, we are going to come to your town. The town actually does go out and solicit, looking for businesses, don't they?
To some extent, maybe not as much as we could, but it is something that I think that we should be pushing more on the town planner, adding to her workload. It has to be seen if that can be done. The town administrator, Kevin, was just starting to get into that part. As you know, when he came 3.5 years ago, we had a huge budget mess, and all of the data to finalize and be able to navigate the budget was not in an organized manner, and it took a while for him to get through that and gain the confidence of Finance Advisory Board that what he was doing was the data was right. So
he had big shoes to fill when he stepped in. Well,
yeah,
he didn't have big shoes to.
He had a big job to do.
Big job, yes.
And whoever comes after him is going to have big shoes to fill on that side.
Absolutely. I mean, I was just totally surprised when, I think it was within 6 months, 7 months, he had things basically turned around, and we were looking
Well, we
towards
had
the end of
been,
the tunnel with
right
him.
when he came on, we were looking at a 2.5 override that failed, and it was because we were looking at the data all wrong. And I should have been able to see a little more of it, but when the town administrator that was here was saying, this is the data, and it's been vetted, the accountant agrees, the auditor agrees, it's hard to say it was wrong. But Kevin was able to come in and say, well, you do have these revenues that always are coming in, so we should count them up front, not on the back end, and things like that. That's all, that was the main thing that he did to straighten things out, was to account for recurring revenues, so it didn't always look like we were falling off a cliff. He was counting them up front because we knew from the meals tax we would get X amount of dollars every year. And in the previous town administrator was saying 0 for that line item. So it was a shortfall, but we always had it when free cash came around because it would show up there. So it was putting the money and accounting for it up front where it belonged.
But I know you were a big part of working with the new town administrator when he came in. And you and a few other ones that were in the know, and everything just seemed like it turned around and our town became better for it. So I was very impressed, again, with the board at the time and the administrator. So what else do you foresee that we could change in this town to better the town at this time?
When we were talking about regionalization, and I touched on this at the debate, I think we need to do more with the schools on sharing services between things that come to mind off the top of my head, maintenance, IT, which I talked about, and also the library. The library, especially when the new library when the library's reopened with the renovations, there's gonna be a lot of resources in there that the schools are gonna be able to take advantage of. And if we can, the schools have had a hard time in the past finding librarians for the different schools. Maybe we should really try and share a librarian, at least in one school, with the library. Share the cost, share the resources, and maybe the kids would come to the library and we would be able to free up some of the budget in the school if the resources are at the library. Instead of duplicating them.
Now, you did bring up maintenance. What's your feelings on, and I'm using a lack for a better word, a full DPW, where all the town buildings, schools, and every building we have, every piece of land we're owned by the town is maintained by one department?
That was actually something I was working on with Kevin a couple of years ago, and we hit a wall with some of the unions, but it wasn't worth fighting at the time, but I think we're at the point that we really need to, and when Tommy retires from the highway department, it would be a good time to relook at that and restructure how, because some of the other highway guys are gonna be retiring too. And as you know, there's only 5 others, so it's a very small department, and the maintenance department from the schools is pretty small. So considering that they have 4 buildings and one of them is 2 miles away from the rest of them, and they have a lot of grounds, and share those services and maybe get a licensed electrician or a licensed plumber or someone, and raise them up, not just so they're just not custodians, that they're true maintenance people, and we have a full department. It is something that I've been talking to a couple of people about. I need to do more research before I can say that it's 100% the right move, but it is something I would like to look into. I just want to make sure people realize that full DPW is not, we don't have our own electric company, so there won't be an electric demand. the town doesn't own or run any of the water or sewer districts, so that wouldn't be it. It would be the maintenance of the parks, the veteran squares, the roads that are not Route 9, which the state does, and the school buildings and the school grounds, and, you know, the municipal buildings. And we should probably start including, the firefighters have maintained their own buildings forever. We now will have a brand-new building, and it will be, I know the guys will have a lot of pride in it and will do a good job, but some things may need to have share the
Professionals.
equipment that
Yes.
that would be used in the other buildings
Buildings.
in town.
Okay, we just got the 4-minute or 5-minute warning, so why don't you go ahead and bring out some more stuff about you that you'd like the people to know?
Well, I think I bring leadership based on my work at IBM. I've been a manager in IBM for the last 17 years. I've worked for IBM for 38 years, so that shows commitment to following through on things that I start. So leadership with my leading the girls, through Scouts, the 6 years prior as a selectman. I've also been on other boards and committees at church, as well as inside and outside of the municipal world.
Oh, yeah, you're the lady that brought fireworks back to Leicester for us, too.
Yes, the idea for the 300th Founders Day was my idea. I took it, I recruited, there were only 7 of us, and I put together in 10 months, we put together and raised over $25,000. We put on that parade that had 5 sections, as well as all the activities on the common for the whole day, and ending the day with fireworks, as well as we had other activities in the month of June. And that, I have to give a lot of credit to the committee I worked with, but that was my idea. I built and created the flyers that went out. I did the recruiting of the fundraising from the different groups and businesses, and the pamphlet that we handed out that day. I thought that was one thing that didn't cost the town a penny. And when we finished, we had money left over, which we split. Half of it went into the general fund, which became free cash to be used, and the other half is sitting in an account for the 300th in 2022. Since then, we found out that we were really incorporated in 2013, so it was a good thing we had that one. But the state will allow us to still do one in 2022, which is what had been advertised as our incorporation date for a long time. Up till 2.5 years ago.
Well, we just got the 2-minute warning, so I want to really thank you, Sandy, for being here. I want to wish you the best of luck, and I hope to see you sitting in front of that board when we're filming again.
Thank you.
And I know with all the things you've done in town, people have to know who you are. If newcomers, look up Sandy Wilson, look at what she's accomplished, look what she's done over the years. I know you're going to have some flyers going out. Take the time to read them. New is not always better. And I appreciate you stepping forward and coming back and putting your name out there for us, Sandy.
Thanks, Lucky.
Lucky Margadonna, I hope you all see this tonight.